His career path has been from high technology to pastoring and to planting churches. He has also won the honor of being named Southeast Bold-Faced Liar Champion of 2010, and I believe that. His story, Kathy there. Catherine, sorry. His stories are about family and life experiences, and he's just tripped me all up on that when he says what he's going to talk about tonight is shoes.
I came before you at a friend's request a few months ago and told the family story about my brother that I thought they wanted to hear. I had made a dreadful mistake. They did not want to hear when he was a baby how I had tried to kill him. They wanted to hear about the shoe story. So tonight I am trying to correct that misdeed that I did before. Now I need to tell you something about my family. 2 brothers and a dad, and a mom wasn't there anymore. Dad only knew how to cook this chicken bog with noodles. It's where you cook the chicken with some salt and pepper until it falls completely off the bone by itself and the bones float to the surface like they're alive. And then you throw some noodles in and it soaks it all up and you have to eat it. So my dad had invited the new wife candidate over for dinner with the men. Now, he had a convenient plan. Now, he had a previous history with this plan. My mother's name was Betty. And when the 2 of them were dating, he had a rule that he only dated Bettys. Not one Betty, several Bettys, but he figured he would never call them by the wrong name. They were all Bettys. So, after Mom was gone, he decided that he needed to marry another Sheila because it would keep all that name changing business from being nearly so complicated and confusing. You know, in later life, when there were brothers that weren't related to each other and things like that, it was sometimes confusion. But my dad's second wife was originally married to a cousin of my dad, and so it was in the family by marriage, and she'd done the name changing already. Well, she got to the dinner table just in time for us to sit down for that carving knife commercial. You may remember it. It slices the meat so thin the relatives will never come back. Dad stood to be wife, said, what she witnessed wasn't the slicing of the meat so thin. She said, those 3 guys sliced each other to pieces. and the pieces would fall right back down on top of each other. You'd hardly notice that they'd almost demolished each other. That was the very first night that she got to know us. Later on in life, Gary called me up on the telephone and said, you've got to come right over right now. I've got news and I've got to talk with you about it. I've got to discuss things. Well, if you knew about the slicing to pieces and all of that kind of thing, you can imagine that we did not share very much about our relationships with the 3 of us. Now, Gary did have a deal going on with Dad. If he could show up in the same restaurant at the same time as Dad was eating dinner with his prospective wife, then the 4 of them would eat dinner together. Now, my dad was getting older by then, and he didn't understand that a waiter, a waitress, a manager, a busboy in every restaurant in town was in the same high school class as my brother. That's here. Can you get here quick? He could get here quick. He could drop everything. He could scare up a date on the way. He just opened the car door. She'd jump in. And they'd be in the restaurant. It was free food. So I grew to appreciate that free food. My wife will attest to the fact that I appreciate high quality food very high. So now the time comes for me to go over and hear about Gary's girlfriend. she's a really good cook, and I had enjoyed eating there. And he said, I gotta tell you something, I gotta tell you something, I gotta tell you something. I said, okay, brother, take your time. We can have one of those confidential brotherly conversations, hold it between the best. I'll ask the important questions, you fill me in on the details. He said, what, Faith wants me to get a ring for Thanksgiving so we can be married right after Christmas. That's it. That's a lot to take in right fast, but I did. I said, I got a few questions. And I said, brother, is it recreational or is it serious? He said, brother, I think it's getting pretty serious. I said, okay, brother. I said, are there any other details I need to know? Oh, 2 teenagers. I said, run, brother, run and run fast. He didn't take my advice, and he didn't understand brotherly confidentiality either. He went immediately home and told Faith that I had asked if it was recreational or if it was serious. I was off the wedding list, on the do not bother list, stay home. Immediately, I didn't get fed for months. I was even in trouble on the wedding day. So about 6 months later, I wasn't expecting the call. You're invited to come over for dinner. I was thinking food poisoning, is that a possibility? But I came over. I immediately got in the car. I drove over. I put on nice clothes. I did everything I was supposed to. And I was an exceptionally good brother. I stopped at the mailbox. I brought in the mail. There was this big postcard that didn't seem to fit anywhere. It was green and the letters on it seemed to grow. It reminded me of Harry Potter or Screecher. You know those Screechers that came there? That's what it was. Howlers. This one was the Screecher. I'll let you know. It screeched here in a minute. Oh, down in the stack. Now something important. The other thing you have to do when you're a good brother and the trash cans are still out on the road, you have to roll the trash cans back to the house. I went in and I laid the mail down on the counter where it went. I didn't even pay much attention to it. And I was invited to go into the other room, sitting room, for hors d'oeuvres. I love that smoked salmon with the well, it turns out that the green glowing in the dark card had risen to the top of the pile. It was the card for Topps Shoe Store, preferred customer appreciation sale going on that very day. Did I mention I had driven over from Asheville to Johnson City just for a meal? The meal was over. I didn't even get to enjoy the appetizers because on the table there were the shoes on top of the magical card, and she muttered the incantation of the evening. She said, "Dry rot." Apparently it had something to do with the shoes. I don't know about magical incantations, but she muttered it. The car was immediately pulled up. I got in the back seat. Gary and Faith got in the front seat, and we headed. Did I mention I had just come from Asheville and I was looking forward to a meal? We were headed right back to Asheville. Now, Topps is a very famous independent shoe store and a very good shoe store. Yes, I know, I got a cease and desist order, and I'm still telling the story that I may not approve of my telling the story, but I'm gonna tell it anyway. We were driving, and we pulled up in front of the shoe store. Gary was headed the shoes, Fake disappeared off someplace, and he went into the men's department. Took the shoes, held them out like one. He held it up to a shoe salesman and said, I need another pair just like this floor shine shoes, exactly this one. In 2 minutes and 36 seconds, my brother was back at the checkout counter, a new record for a man shopping in a shoe store. He had the green card underneath his arm, and the woman at the counter, not recognizing, he said, Sir, I recognize most of our preferred customers, but you don't seem to be familiar. She said, well, what's your name? And he said, Shealy, Shealy. Nobody ever spells it right, so I spelled it for him. She looked it up in the computer. She said, Mr. Shealy, you don't seem to be here. Okay, it may be in my wife's name. What's your wife's name? Dr. D.R.A.I. Oh, Dr. Aiken, we know Dr. Aiken. She's a platinum preferred member of our shoe club. She's in the other room right there. You will get the top level discount, 30-something% off on this pair of shoes. But we know that you're going to be here a while, so I'll just put them back on the counter for you. And when you're ready to check out, go for it. He said, what do you mean I'm going to be here a while? Well, here's my wife. Well, she said, oh, she's back in one of his apartments, down and around the corner and then back. And he started going that direction and I followed him. What I saw was amazing. I don't know if you have ever seen a platinum preferred shoe shopper before in your life, but people stopped what they were doing. When she came into the room, they cleared back. There were rails around the outside of the ring. They pulled in the chair like a throne, and a light shone down from the heavens on the chair. 7 shoe salesmen made sure she was comfortable, brought her a beverage to sit on the table, and then began to bring out shoes, one pair after the other. They were not perfect, all of them. There was the kind of high top boots and the medium boots, and even those little, they weren't really boots at all, but they called them boots and you had to wear stockings of some kind with it. It was very confusing. There were the rust colored shoes, in various shapes. You could get them in silver and metallic. And the signal was going, how many of you been to like a baseball game? There was more signaling going on than at the baseball game. It was just unbelievable to watch. Now I was waiting because customers at the side sometimes would get a little anxious and start. I thought maybe they would bring the cage down from the death match spikes. Have you been those with the pipes on the bottom of the fences, on the bottom wire on the top? Yeah, I was afraid that it was going to be nasty. It got on for hours. Have you ever been to Belk's on Black Friday? There's a rule in Belk's department store on Black Friday that you can take any piece of clothing off the shelf you want to. And there is no rule that you have to return. It just grows in piles all around the floor for the clerks to take care of the next night. That's the way the shoe store works. There were a couple of boxes over in the corner, but mostly there was a ever-growing pile of every kind of a shoe you can imagine. At about the 2-hour and 45-minute mark, one of the salesmen brought in the perfect-looking box and opened it up. I swear it glowed. They got the shoes out. They tried them on the Queen's royal feet. They had discovered the perfect pair of shoes. Brother breathed a sigh of relief. How much could one perfect pair of shoes be? Remember, I mentioned that I was hoping to get dinner. It hadn't happened. But the signaling Apparently this means no, and that means put it on the stack to save for me, because all 7 of those shoe salesmen, when it was done and the lights came up and the people applauded, had 2 or 3 or 4 boxes of shoes that they brought out to the lady who was still standing with my brother's original pair of shoes at the checkout counter. Yes, she was going to get 33% off on 27 pairs of shoes for a grand total of $2,456.36. I was exhausted just watching the clerk behind the counter smile. And we started to walk out of the car, followed by all 7 of the shoe salesmen. We were going to put the shoes in the back of the car so we could go home. Now, the lady at the checkout counter did look up and waved to my father and my brother and said, "Come back soon. Or your daughter, Jennifer, is a platinum member of the shoe club too. She comes in often with her mother." We got out everything in the car. I was just, I'm not sure I was ready to eat. Faith said, shoe shopping is really difficult. I said, yeah, I can never be a shoe salesman. She said, I'm just exhausted. I need to go around the corner to the spa. I'm going to have a spa treatment at Spa Theology. It's right around the corner. It's a very good spa. If you're tired after shoe shopping, it's I highly recommend it. She said, I think I'm going to have the hot rock treatment. Oh, that sounds good right there. $495, and they'll put hot rocks wherever you want them to. Now, that's a job I could do. So we went across to the bookstore for an hour so we could read about various jobs that I might be able to do on an empty stomach. Well, she had the hot rock treatment where they put the rocks any place you want them to. And when we got back, I got back just in time for them to put stuff away in the refrigerator and me to drive back to Ashland. There was a ham sandwich in the refrigerator that I enjoyed that night. I must have done something wrong in the course of the day. I might not have planned it right or something, because that was the last time I've ever been invited back for dinner.